Hey, welcome back guys. This is Alex Louis here with your Angular tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how we can use a structural directive called ngtemplate, and I'm going to give you a couple of use cases for ngtemplate. But first I want to show you the code, and then I'll explain as to how you would use it and just different theories as to how it works behind the scenes. ngtemplate is a type of it's a virtual element used by Angular, and it's usually it's actually could only be used with the structural directive called ngif. And if you take a look at my example here, I have my structural directive called ngif. Display is a boolean, and what's happening in the code is we are either going to not display what's inside the ngtemplate tag, or we are. On first load, you'll see that currently there's really nothing displayed. Now, the important thing to realize is when you're using the ngtemplate tag, it's a virtual element, so it's not going to render an actual HTML element. So that's why I wanted you guys to look at what's actually being rendered as part of the HTML. Unfortunately, I cannot zoom this in, but I think you can view it. So if you see here, we actually what Angular does is just places a comment as to what is actually happening. So this is an Angular thing that they do for ngtemplates. At the end of the day, what Angular is trying to do is they're trying to mimic the original HTML tag called template. So let's take a look at the specifications for that right now. So if we go over here, paste this. Most of you perhaps are familiar with this, but maybe some of you are not. In HTML, there is a tag called the template tag. And what the template tag does is it'll hold content, but it won't display it on the browser. So if we look at the definition and usage, the template tag is that it's a template, and it's going to be hidden. Whatever is inside the template tag is going to be hidden from the client, and it's not going to be rendered on the actual DOM. So what you can do is you can use JavaScript, plain old JavaScript, to render it visible later, or if you have some type of event. And this is basically where this ngtemplate tag came from. It's trying to kind of piggyback on what happens with the original HTML template tag. And you can take a look at this page as an example if you don't understand what the template tag is. I'm not going to go into the HTML side, but just in layman's terms, is as a template, it's an original HTML template tag. If just you look at these specifications of HTML, where you can place HTML within the template tag, but it will not be rendered to the browser. Now, what we do in Angular is that they have their own implementation of this template tag, and they call it ngtemplate. And with ngtemplate, the way that you use it on the front end is you would use it with a structural directive. And what happens is with your structural directive, let's say I have this div here, right? And I have a Boolean value, and this is coming from the component code. I have a Boolean value which I've declared as originally as true on ng-init on the lifecycle event. And if it's true, then we're going to display whatever's inside here. If this is false, then what other content is, it's an ID of my template that I want to reference and display. Onload will not display my template code. If you notice here to the right, it actually creates a comment. It's an Angular thing which creates a comment to indicate that if the logic becomes false, it's going to render an object which is it's referring to this particular HTML. So it's important to realize that you're not going to get any type of DOM objects on the page if you do use the template tag, and that's very important if you want to talk about trying to do something externally with whatever's inside. If it's not rendering, then you're obviously going to get an error. If you're trying to do some type of logic within the HTML content within the ngtemplate tag. Now, this Boolean, once I click on my button, right, I've created a change data event. And if we go back to the model code, I'm just going to take the opposite of my Boolean value. So remember, on init was true, and then this will make it false. And this becomes false, so that means that this content here, my template HTML, will display. So if we test it, see that template HTML is displaying, and now we see the HTML content display. And this in turn is the old jobs component that we've built on previous lectures on how I'm getting data from an API. And then if I toggle it false, then the template will do its job. The directive will do its job and make the template code disappear. And that's pretty much what's all there to it when you're using ngtemplate. When you use ngtemplate. So I just want to remind you, important points here to remember is it's not a true web element. When you compile this, when you compile the Angular, you're not going to see an ngtemplate tag in the DOM. And when Angular evaluates the ngtemplate, it's actually going to wrap it around in a comment section in the DOM. It's going to wrap it around in a comment section in the DOM. And that's important for you to remember, because if you're trying to access anything with inside those tags, when you're trying to load the page, remember it's not going to display, so you're obviously going to get an error. You're going to get an error. So please don't use anything inside ngtemplate as and treat it like an HTML element, because it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Okay. Okay, so I am going to obviously I'm going to post this code on GitHub. You can take a look at it, and hopefully you kind of learned on what this all ngtemplate business is about. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching my video. Soon there's a reason why ng content is commented out, is because that video is coming up next. So I will have that video for you soon, and hopefully you can enjoy it. Thanks.